Hello world, today we are going to take a look at NgSwitch. NgSwitch is an Angular directive which is really important when it comes to conditionally displaying HTML elements. It is one of the structural directives which are packaged with Angular. Okay, so we will start off by explaining what this illustration is. Then we'll go ahead and take a look at the HTML of this illustration. After that, we will see how we can actually import and add NgSwitch into our component scope. And also in the end, we will see how we can handle fall-through cases in Angular NgSwitch. But if you are not familiar with what a fall-through case is, don't worry, we will cover it in this session. And lastly, we will be able to see how we can achieve this. It will be a really interesting session, so I hope you will learn something in the end. And what you learn, make sure that you teach others that you may grow together. And always remember, you stop growing when you stop learning. And without further ado, let's get started. So first things first, when we start with this illustration, we see that we have a TypeScript switch right here and we also have an NgSwitch right here. So the reason for having them side by side, and you can see by the color indications, this switch statement, this is the wrapper, okay, that encloses all the cases inside it. And the same applies to the HTML part. We have the NgSwitch in the color green that also encloses everything that goes inside it. Okay, so that part is clear. Then we have this first part right here, the case front. We need to show front, and in this case, if it was in TypeScript, maybe you could console log show front, you could run logic on the front case, and correspondingly in the HTML part, all we need to do is to say this star NgSwitchCase, and then we give it a value right here. So if I zoom in, you will see that right here we have a star NgSwitchCase, then the value you want to match against. Remember, if it is a string value that you're matching against, you have to enclose it inside single quotes right here. But if it's a number, just have it as a number. Okay, all right. Then we see another case right here. The other case right here is for the back part. So like the way we did here, we just add NgSwitchCase for the back part. But we see that it's also possible to nest these NgSwitches, okay? So right here, we are simply nesting this NgSwitch, and then we are comparing it with the value of our select. So all we need to do is to now start checking the same way we are doing right here. We match against this value, and then whatever is matched is what will be executed. Okay, then right here we actually see that we have a default case. So when nothing matches at the top, then the default should be executed. That is okay, because that's how switch statements work. So the same also applies in HTML. You notice that we have star NgSwitchDefault, and whatever content goes in here is what will be rendered, okay, when none of these cases have been matched. Okay, let's continue. Then the important part you notice is that here we have a break, but we don't need breaks right here. But here we need a break so that the next part, the same way we had a break right here, so that when front finishes, then back should not be executed. However, what if we didn't have this break right here? Okay, so that is where the JavaScript fall through case comes into the picture. Let's take a look at this switch statement right here. We see that the condition to match is whether the value that is going to be evaluated right here is an even number or an odd number. If it's an even number, then we are going to log true. Otherwise, we are going to log false. But that is not the case. What will happen is that you notice that in the true part, because we are breaking, then when it's true, only console log.true will be executed. However, in the odd part, when it's false, both false and default will be executed. Because we did not add a break to terminate the false part, we didn't have it like this. Okay, so that means that everything else following the false case will just fall through and it will be displayed. And that is where I believe the fall through case name came into the picture. And to see a similar result in our HTML, I want you to focus on this part. Just ignore this part right now. I want you to focus on this because this part is what we talked about in the illustration. So in this section, we see that we are matching against the active face, okay? And then we are providing cases right here. We have provided a case for a front and a case for a back. However, we don't have this div having any case. It's neither marked as a default nor does it have a case to match against. So that means this div will be falling through and it will be displayed regardless of the value of active face. So for example, right here, if we say front and if we say back and if we mark this as fall through, and then we save this, we go to our browser, we'll see this. We see front because this is the front part that is being displayed. Then we see fall through. But if we change to show back, then we see that the back is what is being displayed and then the fall through part is still persisted. Okay. All right. So I believe that part for the fall through is clear. So up to this point, you may be wondering, do I just use NgSwitch like that without importing anything? No, you don't. You have to import these three: NgSwitch, which will be used by this part right here. Then you need NgSwitchCase, which will be used by this part right here. And then you need NgSwitchDefault, which will be used by this part right here. So if we remove NgSwitch right here, for example, we will be getting this error. Okay, so just make sure that you import these three and everything should work as expected. So now it's time to see how can we actually make use of this illustration right here that is actually portrayed by this. And the reason I wanted to have no content right here is to just explain the logic first. So I believe we can remove this part right here and then we save it. And now this is the logic that we have for our UI. Okay, so if we take a look at it, it's nothing fancy. It's just what we have talked about. We have talked about the NgSwitch, we have talked about the NgSwitch cases, and so forth and so forth. So let's play around with our UI right here. So if we come here in the UI, we just change to show back. This content is for the premium card, okay? Then we can change to advanced. And as you can see, when we make the changes, the different UI sections are what will be executed. So if we take a look at it, we see that if we are showing the basic part, we have the basic part having only the motto: you stop growing when you stop learning. Then we have the advanced part. It will show the motto as well as the skills that you have. And lastly, we have the premium. Premium will show the motto, it will show the skills, and it will show also your social links. And it's what we have right here in the corresponding HTML element. Okay. Then we have the large part. You notice the large part, the front or the back. Now we are showing the back. We have added a condition here at the bottom right here. If we are going to be showing the front, then we display, we can toggle to the back and vice versa. Okay, then the thing that you note right here is that we have NgSwitch active face. It's what we just talked about in the fall through cases. We have this NgSwitch for the front part, then we have it for the back part, then we also have the fall through, which will have our select right here. Okay, all right. But so far, you notice one thing. You notice that we have repeated motto multiple times. We also have duplication of the skills. So this is something that we are going to be covering, hopefully in the next session that we'll be having, of how we can actually make reusable UI templates in Angular using NgTemplateOutlet and NgTemplateOutlet context. It will be a really interesting session and I hope you will also learn something from it as well. I believe that's it for this session. So always remember, you stop growing when you stop learning. And what you learn, go further and teach others that you may grow together. And with that, until the next one.